Welcome back to Cloud 2K. It is the first video. It is actually New Year's Day of 2025. So happy New Year's to everybody. It's insane, man. 2024 flew by. I've been making content since like the end of January, beginning of February, I believe. So almost a full year of like not full time, but like every week putting out multiple videos a week. And it's been a great year. It's been a great year, and I'm really excited for 2025. But before, we get to this like super positive 2025 vibe, we have to finish out 2024 on a bit of a negative note, kind of. We are starting 2025 by looking at every NBA team's biggest regret from the year 2024. So again, a bit of a negative note, but we're going to get it out of the way early. This is from Zach Buckley over at Bleacher Report. And yeah, I mean, the dawn of the new year offers everyone the opportunity to look forward. It's also imperative to do some looking back, though, because some of the best lessons in life are learned through making mistakes. We know that. I know that very sure. Everyone has things they did in 2024 that they regret, NBA teams included. So with the calendar year shifting to 2025, let's revisit the biggest mistakes or biggest regrets each franchise has from the last 12 months. Okay, so this is going to be a long one. There's going to be obviously 30 teams. I kind of have a feeling what some of these are going to be. You guys probably saw in the thumbnail what a couple of them are going to be as well. But let's go. The Atlanta Hawks. Not identifying a more definitive direction. Okay, when the Hawks shipped out DeJounte Murray in July, they clearly had an eye on the future. All key components of the return package were future-focused. Whether that was the 2025, 2027 first-round picks they added, or obviously Dyson Daniels, who's been phenomenal for them. And yet, it's hard to say Atlanta's fully focused on looking ahead when Trae Young still pilots his attack. Okay, so I guess they're trying to figure out, like, they're kind of running this, like, two-timeline thing, kind of like what the Warriors have done. Obviously, just not to the same extent, because the Warriors won a championship with this whole thing, and they have Steph Curry, who's just a lot better player than Trae Young is. And I kind of understand it. Like they said, they have Clint Capella still on the roster. Bogdanovich is still on the roster. DeAndre Hunter has really kind of broken out to be probably maybe a 6 man of the year front runner right now. He's a top candidate for 6 man of the year. He's been absolutely phenomenal for them. So it's trying to figure out, do we want to buy in with Trae Young? And maybe we have Dyson Daniels now that's part of this core. You have DeAndre Hunter. You have Zachary Ricochet, who just drafted this past year. You have Onyeka Okongwu, who still has never really taken the jump that you've wanted, but is a valuable player. Jalen Johnson, obviously, they gave that big contract to. It's just trying to figure out, do they ship out Trae Young and make this like a full young team and a full, like, that's the direction we want to go in? Or do you maybe package some of these people that are not working out the way you wanted them to try to make a playoff push? And for me, I think Trae Young's like, 25, 26 maybe? Like, I think he could definitely still fit the timeline of this team. You give this team 2 to 3 more years, he's still going to be 27, 28 years old in his prime. I think it's not that far out of the possibility that Trae Young could be a part of this team's long-term future. Next, the Boston Celtics not keeping Lonnie Walker. Okay, the Boston Celtics hold no major regrets. I was going to say, there's not really much for the Celtics. You just had to pick and choose. They won the last season title and remain in the thick of this season's chase. Still, even the champs had some minor second-guessing to do, particularly in the case of spark-plug Lonnie Walker. I mean, yeah, I guess their bench isn't that great, and he's been pretty good over, he's overseas, and I don't remember what league he's in, but he's been pretty damn good. Yeah, I'm sure Lonnie Walker would be a good piece for them on their bench right now, because they don't really, I mean, Peyton Pritchard's been phenomenal this season, so I guess they have that, but it's like, having another scorer, and like, I think Lonnie Walker, I think they even say in here, is like 25, 20, yeah, he's 26. It just, he would be a nice piece for them to have. I think it would make them, I mean, they're already, I think they're still the best team in the league. Technically, the second best team in the Eastern Conference playoff, or record-wise. But I think coming up with championship, they're still phenomenal. I think they still are the team to beat in the NBA. Next. This is something I actually talked about last night when I was playing some video games with my friends. Delaying the dismantling for the Brooklyn Nets. They are right now the 12th seed in the Eastern Conference, right? But the Hornets, the Raptors, and the Wizards are bad. Like 5 wins, 7-7 for the Raptors and the Hornets, and they're bad. The Nets right now are like 5 games above these guys, and it's like they're gonna be bad, right? Dennis Schroeder's gone. Dorian Finney-Smith is now a Laker. Cam Johnson, they said they're taking calls for Cam Johnson, so this team is going to be bad. But they have 7 games to catch up with the Wizards. Not only that, the Jazz are also really bad. And I think there's another team out west that I'm just blanking on at the moment. But there's multiple teams out in the West. There's like 2 or 3 teams out in the West that are worse than the Brooklyn Nets. So right now they're looking at like the 6th or 7th pick, or at least the odds for it, right? So like, which isn't bad, but like this Brooklyn Nets team needs that guy. They have Cam Thomas, who I don't think any of us really know his full like potential, but I don't know. They need to be a top player, and they might have waited a couple weeks too long to trade out some of these pieces, and they've won too many games. Again, crazy because they're like 12-20 right now, but trying to make up that 7-game difference with the Wizards is tough because the Wizards are bad. Next, we have the Charlotte Hornets bringing back Miles Bridges. Okay. Back in June, Hornets governor Gabe highlighted the 4 players he saw as comprising as the club's core nucleus: LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Mark Williams, and then whoever the team selected at 6, which ended up being Tijan Salon. Roughly 1 month later, the team gave swingman Miles Bridges nucleus level money to stick around with a 3-year, $75 million deal. Okay. I mean, I get it. I'm not. I kind of mentioned it here. I'm not the biggest fan of Miles Bridges because of some stuff off the court, but we're not going to get into that now. I think I understand part of the reason they signed Miles Bridges with the way that apron works. You have to use like a certain amount of percentage of your cap space. Miles Bridges is a good NBA player. He's not a great NBA player, but he's a good NBA player. And I think, a guy that can take some pressure off LaMelo Ball, off of Brandon Miller, that can handle the ball, that can kind of run some offense, and obviously can be a big explosive offensive threat. I don't mind it. I understand it probably does hurt the development of LaMelo, of Brandon Miller, of Shalon by having a guy like Brandon Miller take these shots, but I don't know. I think they needed to use their money, and I'm not exactly mad at it. The Chicago Bulls, yeah, overpaying Patrick Williams. He's not been very good. You also got to look back on the Josh Giddey, Alex Caruso trade. They traded Alex Caruso to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Josh Giddey straight up. I mean, Josh Giddey's had a couple good games, but it's definitely not looking like that was the right decision. So that's gonna be a pretty tough one as well. I don't know, man. They're trying to buy into something. They just drafted Matas Buzelis, who could also play wing with Patrick Williams, but they drafted him 4th, I think, in 2020, 2021. So they're doing anything they can to justify that selection, and he's just not very good. Cleveland Cavaliers, again, another team that really doesn't have much to be worried about, but failing to answer small forward questions. You have Isaac Okoro, Sam Morril, Max Strus. Karis LeVert's technically a 2-3. It's just not really anything. You're kind of hoped. I don't know. They just don't really have a lot there. But I mean, Darius Garland, they have Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. They kind of are just making pieces work around them. I don't think it's that big of an issue. But again, you're kind of just pointing at things that, yeah. Dallas Mavericks not getting more value from Jaden Hardy. I mean, sure. But I think part of it's that, Luka's missed some time, so you were hoping that he would take over some minutes with him losing time. But Kyrie Irving's been phenomenal. And I don't know, man. I guess you're not getting much out of your backup point guard that you thought you would. But this team's looking really, really good. I think they look better than they did last year when they were in the NBA Finals. I'm not saying they're going to get back or even win the Finals this year, but as a team, they just seem like they look a little bit better. I don't know. He's just having a really, really rough start to the season. He's 21, 22 years old. And, it's going to take some time. Point guard is one of the hardest positions probably the hardest position in the NBA to kind of translate to once you get into the league. So, and then when you're behind Kyrie and Luka, you're not getting that playing time. He's at a career low usage percentage as well. So, it's been a rough season for Jaden Hardy, but I'm not. If that's what it is, it's what it is. Denver Nuggets losing KCP for nothing. Yeah. So Jokic, we know, is phenomenal. He's an MVP candidate. Some people might have him as an MVP favorite. He's definitely top 3, no matter what. But in the past couple offseasons, they lost Bruce Brown. They've lost KCP. And it's just not looking great because their bench is bad. They're bad. The Christian Braun, they're having start, and he's fine, but they don't have the shooting. Jamal Murray has not been himself in about a year now. He's had a couple good games recently, but he's just not been himself. Michael Porter Jr. is not really playing up to his value as well. Aaron Gordon's been dealing with some injuries. The team's just looking good, but then again, KCP hasn't been shooting very good in Orlando either. So who's to say KCP would be struggling too? I get it, man. They're a team that's deep in the salary cap with the second apron, so they had to let him go. And they brought in Russell Westbrook, who's actually been pretty good this season, off the bench for them. So, you're missing his shooting, but again, with the way he's playing in Orlando this year, he might not have been good in Denver. You know what I mean? But who knows? Detroit Pistons paying a premium for Tobias Harris. Okay. I'm curious about this one. Given the universal praise perpetually heaped on the 2025 draft class, the Detroit Pistons picked peculiar time to try to get out of the rebuilding game. Granted, their previous misfortunes highlighted how a mountain of losses doesn't guarantee a draft lottery jackpot, but still, it's not like the upcoming talent grab is seen as a 1 or 2 player draft class. Again, they were a team that, they've been bad for a while now. They've been trying to rebuild for a while now. They have Cade Cunningham, obviously, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Dern. They have a couple, younger pieces. They just drafted Ron Holland, Asar Thompson from last year. They have some pieces, but I think it was okay of them. They brought in some veterans, Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., one, because they can space the floor. This Detroit team had no spacing for Cade Cunningham. They bring in some guys that can shoot the ball. They get some veterans on the court with their young guys to help develop them. Okay, yes, 2-year, $52 million. But, again, with the salary cap, you have to pay a certain amount of your percentage of your salary. I don't mind this. I really don't mind this. I get it. You don't love it. You probably don't love bringing Tobias Harris back in that front court with Isaiah Stewart, with Ron Holland trying to get some minutes, with obviously Jalen Dern. But I don't know. I don't see this as a bad thing. I think bringing in veterans for these young teams actually I think bringing in veterans for a young team is a big deal, but especially when it's veterans that can play on the court. If you're bringing in veterans that are just going to sit on the bench the entire time and not get on the court with these players, sure, it's going to have its value in the locker room, but being on the court is a much bigger deal. Golden State Warriors not getting Steph Curry a co-star. Okay, yeah. The Golden State Warriors poked around about a LeBron James trade at the last deadline. That was never going to happen. They followed up with an all-season pursuit of both Lauri Markkanen and Paul George, who Lauri Markkanen re-signed with Utah, and Paul George obviously is in Philadelphia. Also, neither one of them are having very good seasons. Paul George has been pretty bad. Lauri Markkanen has not been very good either in his situation. So, maybe they avoided paying on guys that weren't going to be very good this season. We don't know. And I get it. They're not very good. Andrew Wiggins has been pretty good this season. Draymond Green is still kind of Draymond Green. Jonathan Kuminga has had some good flashes, and I think he's still a young guy. And he could maybe be something. AirPods, Brandon Podziemski has not been very good. D'Anthony Melton was really good to start the season. Then he tore his ACL, I believe. And now he's going. They bring in Dennis Schroeder, who's not been good since he's got there. Buddy Hield, same Buddy Hield cycle. He started the season really, really good. And now he's just kind of back to not being able to shoot the ball. That's how that goes with Buddy Hield. I get it, man. I've been making this statement for a while. The Warriors have been trying to do the 2 timelines with Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, Jonathan Kuminga, Tracy Jackson Davis. They've been trying to progress, I should say, those young guys while trying to win a championship with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins. It doesn't work. The only timeline is Steph Curry. Maybe you have to trade some of your younger players for Jimmy Butler or something like that, because that's just what's available right now. Maybe a Vucevic might help. Zach LaVine. But you're going to have to trade some of these, 1 and 2 of these younger pieces at a draft pick to try to get an older veteran that can help you win a championship, because that is the real deal over there in Golden State, is winning a championship, man. Houston Rockets running short on shooters. Okay. Sure, they're the 2 seed in the West right now, 2-3 seed in the West right now. They've been phenomenal defensively. Amon Thompson, who, by the way, threw Tyler Hero, but was kind of getting bitched by Tyler Hero the whole game. I'm a big Amon Thompson fan. It was kind of a whole thing that happened there. If you haven't seen that, him and Tyler Hero got into a fight. Terry Rozier flew in. Amon got suspended a couple of games along with a couple other Rockets. Jalen Green got thrown out of the game. Ime Udoka got thrown out of the game. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy what happened. And yet they don't really have shooting. And, they brought in Fred VanVleet. They brought in Dylan Brooks. Was that 2 off seasons ago when they kind of had that second apron thing where it's we have to pay some players. Let's bring in some vets with Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet. And they did it right. I think what Detroit's doing right now is kind of following what Houston did with this kind of thing. So I think that's why, going back to the Detroit thing, I think it's okay. But obviously it's just working on a lot better right now for the Rockets, because it's also the second, third year of it. They don't really have shooting. Jabari Smith Jr. has not been very good. Alperen Sengun is not really a shooter. Dylan Brooks can be very, very streaky, even though he thinks he's Michael Jordan sometimes in a close game in the last 2 minutes, because, Fred VanVleet's not been shooting that well. Jalen Green's a very, very streaky shooter. Amon Thompson's not really a shooter. Yes, they need to bring in some shooting as well. I think that's probably one of the reasons I do not have them as contenders right now. Some people do. I think this team's a little too young. It's a year or two too early for I think they're like OKC from last year. I think they're going to get to the first, second round and then get bounced because they're just not ready for it yet. They bring in a couple shooters in the offseason. I think this team has a real legitimate chance next season, maybe the season after that, of being super, super good. The Indiana Pacers, thinking too long-term at the draft. Okay, now I'll be completely honest with you. I haven't watched too much Pacers basketball this season because Tyrese Halliburton's not been very good, and it's been kind of tough to watch sometimes. So I've been watching some other games. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I have a professional opinion. Well, I guess on any of these teams, but especially the Indiana Pacers. They do Johnny Furphy, who I didn't know much about, right? I mean, yeah, he took a while to score his first NBA bucket. I do remember that. I don't know. I think part of the thing was, I feel like they didn't do much to get better after making the conference finals. Maybe that's part of the drafting for the long term instead of now, which I get. Sometimes drafting a 20-year-old can sound nice, right? But when you have the 23-year-old coming out of the draft that's played for like 4 years of college basketball, could be a better fit for the team right now. And they have some young guys with like Jarris Walker, with Benedict Mathurin, with Andrew Nembhard, Ben Shepherd, and Johnny Furphy. Like, they have some young pieces in there. James Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson are both out for the year, obviously with their Achilles injuries. But yeah, I can understand it. Maybe they didn't bring in a guy that was ready to play right now, or like not ready to play, because I think Johnny Furphy can be very, very useful right now. But a guy that's like, I get it. It's a bit of a weird situation. So, next, I don't know. Clippers getting nothing for Paul George. Well, from what we've seen from Paul George this season, it's not been very good. It's not been very good. Yeah, there was those talks that he was going to get traded to the Warriors, which would have been something like Andrew Wiggins, Chris Paul, Moses Moody in a first-round pick, because that was before Chris Paul was a Spur. Okay. I don't know, man. Norman Powell kind of said the addition by subtraction thing, and he's been really, really good this season for him, so maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Obviously, yes, you would have liked to get some value back for Paul George instead of just letting him walk to Philadelphia. I don't know what you would have got from Philadelphia. So yeah, I get what you mean, but I think they're honestly like, apparently Kawhi Leonard should be back sometime in January. I've heard maybe it might be February, but like I think the Clippers are kind of happy to just wash their hands and move on from Paul George. Say, listen, it didn't work. We're gonna try something new. Norman Powell's been better than you this season, so yeah, you know what I mean. Los Angeles Lakers not addressing the supporting cast sooner. Yeah, so they just did trade for Dorian Finney-Smith for Shake Milton. I don't think they're done. The first game for the two of them didn't look great, but again, it was the first game they played against the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland, the best team in the Eastern Conference record-wise, I should say. And yeah, they didn't have great games, but it's okay. I think it's okay. I also don't think they're done. I think there's a real possibility Zach LaVine or Nikola Vucevic end up on the Los Angeles Lakers by the time we get to the trade deadline. Maybe it's a Walker Kessler instead. I don't know how I feel about it. I also don't know how I feel about Anthony Davis playing at the 4 anymore. He might just be a long-term 5 at this point in time. They try to find some like bench scoring. They desperately need some bench scoring. But yeah, the Los Angeles Lakers may not have admitted it publicly, but they had to know they weren't carrying a championship caliber roster into this campaign. I don't know. Part of me thinks they did think that with D'Lo, Austin Reeves, LeBron, Rui, Anthony Davis. Like, you're hoping you were going to get a lot from Max Christie this year. Jared Vanderbilt, just with his injuries, I don't know. Don't connect. Obviously, they drafted him expecting him to be really, really good, and he's had his moments. He's definitely had his moments, but he's still a rookie, so he has his down moments. Yeah, I don't know. The Lakers are in a really, really weird spot. When you have Anthony Davis and LeBron James, you're kind of like automatically expected to try to win a championship, but the pieces around them just aren't very good right now, and I think they made a step in the right direction, honestly, getting Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton, but we'll see. Grizzlies getting greedy in trade talks. Okay. They were, if I remember correctly, they were in the trade talks with Dorian Finney-Smith. I wonder who else do I just not know about. You know what I mean? Fueled by the return of John Morant and arrival of Zach Edey, the Memphis Grizzlies have regained their place among the Western Conference elites, despite nailing their second-round selection of Jalen Wells. Oh, been phenomenal. I've loved watching Jalen Wells play. They're still in the market for a two-way upgrade at the forward spots. Because, yeah, not Zaire Williams. Vince Williams has not played, like, at all this season. G.G. Jackson also has not played, like, at all this season. Or maybe Vince Williams just came back. But, yeah, they've not really gotten any playtime and no playtime at all out of G.G. Jackson. So that's definitely hurt them. They were in the sweepstakes with Dorian Finney-Smith until the Lakers swooped in. Let's see. Apparently, Memphis pushed too hard, though, as Brooklyn declined their offer when the Grizzlies won of Brooklyn's 2025 second-round pick and offered top 10 protection on the first-rounder. It sounds to me like they just didn't want to trade. Brooklyn said no because they wanted their 2025 second-round pick in order to put a protection on the first. Okay, that kind of more sounds like Brooklyn just didn't want to trade him to Memphis. Maybe they just want to D'Lo back. Maybe that's the long-term goal. I don't know. Miami Heat calling out Jimmy Butler. This is a fiasco, absolute fiasco right now. I don't know what's true, what's not true anymore, honestly. Contract negotiations often have a way of getting uncomfortable, so that's not unique to the ongoing situation between Jimmy Butler, who has a $52 million player option for next season, and apparently, like, his agent had said he's most likely going to decline that player option, which is interesting because he's not going to get $50 million again. I fully don't believe that. And yeah, now it's came out that, let's see here. Heat President Pat Riley publicly admonished Butler in May, which caught the 35-year-old off guard per Barry Jackson and Anthony Chiang. I'm sorry, messing that up. He now prefers to trade out of Miami. Shams reported that. And then Pat Riley said they're not. So, I don't know. It's a mess down there, Miami, man. I do think Jimmy Butler's going to be gone. I think it's just, at this point in time, like, it's just such a bad relationship between, and that's kind of a thing with Jimmy Butler, unfortunately. I really like Jimmy Butler, but it seems like bad situations kind of follow him. I'm not going to sit here and say, like, it's because of him and, like, the way he is as a person, because I don't know him. I don't know. But it just does seem like it kind of follows him, and that's kind of a bit of a bummer. Maybe he ends up in Houston. Maybe he ends up in Golden State still. I don't know. It's a really, really situation down there in Miami. Milwaukee Bucks chasing upside at the draft. Milwaukee Bucks hit the 2024 draft with the number 23 and 33 picks in hand. They needed an injection of youth and athleticism, but their aging top-heavy roster also needed newcomers who could play right away. So why did Milwaukee even attempt to find him? Its first pick, A.J. Johnson, may have been used on the rawest prospect in the draft. Okay, its second, Tyler Smith, all for only slightly more seasoning with serious development work needed on the defensive end. I get it. I mean, they've been good recently. They started off the season really, really bad, but then Giannis has been really good all season. Dane's been a lot good recently. They got Chris Middleton back, Brook Lopez. This team, I think, is back to being a championship contender. And yeah, you can nitpick their draft picks, but I don't, honestly, with Taurean Prince, with A.J. Johnson, not A.J. Johnson, Andre Jackson Jr. is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if any rookies would have really found a lot of playing time in their rotation, but maybe I'm wrong. This is the big one. Minnesota Timberwolves trading away Karl Anthony Towns. Golly, we were all surprised when it happened. I'm pretty sure I made a video on it. I don't know. It's been a while. It just didn't make any sense to a lot of us. They make the conference finals. Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, man. After years of Karl Anthony Towns being the one option, he finally kind of fell back into a two-option role. Anthony Edwards has taken over. They got him to play the four with Rudy Gobert when they traded for Rudy Gobert. The first year, Rudy Gobert wasn't very good, and then he kind of figured out how to play the four next to Rudy Gobert, became a lot better defender with Rudy Gobert behind him, was a good floor spacing four, and then plus the dude loved Minnesota. The Minnesota fans loved him. They traded away for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo. I think a lot of people were upset about it in the moment. A lot of fans are probably still upset about it. Well, Knicks fans, I think, are loving it right now, but Minnesota fans are very, very upset because Julius Randle's been not good for them. Dante DiVincenzo started the season really, really bad. He's been better the past, 3 to 4 weeks, I'd say, but still not what they wanted from him, man. And I get it. I think they were trying to get ahead of the curve with the second apron and the cap space and all that by trading away Karl Anthony Towns. But, coming off of a conference finals run, I think you're trying to buy all into the championship for the next year, not look 2-3 years down the line and trade people early. They could have been a championship contender this year if they kept that team and maybe they bring in Rob Dillingham and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I think they bought themselves out of being championship contenders, and it's rough up there in Minnesota right now. New Orleans Pelicans never realizing what they had in Dyson Daniels. Yeah, I do think part of it is I don't think he ever would have been what he is now in Atlanta in New Orleans. I think he was just playing behind a lot of people. C.J. McCollum, Herb Jones, even Trey Murphy and stuff like that. Jordan Hawkins is there now. They have a lot of people up in that kind of the position he would play for them, and they're paying all those guys a lot of money. He was just never going to really crack the rotation. Could you maybe fault them for not moving on from a C.J. McCollum to kind of get Dyson Daniels some minutes? I'm sure. But I do think part of the reason he's been so good this year is a change of scenery. He's now just hey, I am the starting two guard. I'm a defensive focused two guard, and it's also opened up his offensive games because Trae Young just commands a lot of attention on the offensive side of the ball. I know Trae Young has not been shooting the ball very well, but he commands a lot of attention and respect. And especially the way DeAndre Hunter's playing too, he's demanding a lot of attention. I think it's just a good spot for him to be there, in Atlanta. And listen, New Orleans has a lot of things they have to worry about. Zion might be gone. Brandon Ingram might be gone. Yeah, does it suck that you missed out on a guy like Dustin Daniels by trading him away? Yes, I agree, but they have a lot more to worry about down there in New Orleans. New York Knicks, forgetting they're all in during the draft. Okay, they're like, what, the 2-3? They were like the 3 seed right now in the East. Okay. During the offseason, the New York Knicks gave up 5 first-round picks to get Mikal Bridges, committed $212 million to OG Anunoby, and flipped Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a first-round pick for Karl-Anthony Towns. Approaches don't get any more all-in than that. Yeah, fair enough. I guess, like, you're just talking about the 24th and 25th pick. This is kind of dumb. I guess, yeah, Ryan Dunn was there, and he had a really, really good start to the season with the Suns, but I don't know. I feel like this is, and I guess for some of these teams, you just have to nitpick. Nitpick is what I meant to say, but they are the Knicks. That's kind of funny. That was completely unintentional, honestly. But like, yeah, they're just kind of nitpicking the Knicks right now with this kind of thing, and I think they're very, very happy with the way the season started. I think they were a little like, what did we just do? But Mikal Bridges has been a lot better recently. Cat's really found his rhythm with Jalen Brunson, and I think they're very, very happy with the team right now. And sure, like, I don't know, like this rookie thing, it don't really matter to me. Maybe to some Knicks fans it does matter to them if they're thinking 5-6 years down the line. I guess, sure. But right now you're trying to win a championship in New York, and as long as New York starts winning consistently, they're going to be a free agent destination. Forget them first round picks, man. They're going to be in the 20s. Forget about it, man. Oklahoma City Thunder being too patient with their first pick. Okay. Admittedly, the Oklahoma City Thunder forced us to split hairs here. Yeah, again, another team that's just like, you just have to make something, sure. There simply isn't much to look back on with any kind of regret from 2024, where they climbed the NBA ladder, somehow turned Josh Giddey into Alex Caruso, attacked their biggest weakness by winning with Isaiah Hartenstein sweepstakes, and found actual ways to improve from already. Yeah, forget this draft shit. The New York Knicks' biggest regret should be letting Isaiah Hartenstein leave, because he's been phenomenal over there in Oklahoma City. But, I mean, yeah, they bring in Topic, who's not going to play at all, because it's ACL. That's fine. He wasn't going to, like, even if he was healthy, he probably wasn't going to play much at all. They have Shea. They have Casey Wallace. They have Alex Caruso. They have, like, so many people at that guard position that, like, he was not going to get much minutes anyway. Not many valuable minutes, I should say. So, honestly, I'm kind of okay with them drafting. It's like, listen, we're going to draft you. You're going to sit for a year. You're going to learn behind these guys, and then next year we're going to get you in here as a rookie, but like you have some growth behind you, playing behind Shea, or like learning from Shea, learning from Alex Caruso, learning from like Casey, like you're learning from people because you're not playing, you're rehabbing. I don't know. This team's really, really good. I think these guys are, between them and Celtics, the best team in the entire NBA. And I think, again, you're splitting hairs here. Topic, I think, is going to be fine. But it's like, he was never going to be anything big this year anyway. So you might as well just bring in a guy. Instead of bringing in a guy you're trying to force minutes to. Because over the years, with all their first-round picks, they started, like, losing out on players because they kept drafting. And people from, like, 2-3 years ago all of a sudden weren't playing because they brought in some young guy at their position. So I kind of love the fact that they brought a guy in that they were like, okay, we don't have to worry about playing you this year. We have to, like, next year we'll worry about that kind of thing. Orlando Magic not adding a perimeter scorer was kind of what KCP was supposed to be in a way, like perimeter shooting, I should say, but yeah. On a rare occasion in which the Orlando Magic are granted a clean bill of health, they look ready to make a deep playoff run. Yeah, they're very injured right now, because it's what Franz and Paolo are both out with obliques or something like that, and then now Mo Wagner is out with an ACL, I believe. And they're not. Jalen Suggs left their last game against the Nets because he got hurt, so they're just not looking great down there, Orlando, health-wise. That's for damn sure. There's still plenty of questions with this offense because they've not been top 15 in offense in like damn near 20 years, I believe. Like they're not a high offensive team. They never really have been in my lifetime. KCP is a capable shooter, but he is most impactful for his on-ball defense. He also just isn't shooting that well this year. Rookie first-rounder Tristan De Silva is solid from range, but he holds most appeal for being a do-it-all dot connector. The Magic still need more spacers to let this offense breathe, and since they are, again, when healthy, stacked at the forward and center spots, that spacing would ideally come from a shot-creating perimeter player. Yeah, which is, I think, why they could be in talks for maybe a Zach LaVine, or maybe more realistically, an Anthony Simons type of player, a more of a scoring guard that they could put next to Jalen Suggs. Like, Anthony and Jalen Suggs in the backcourt, I think would be a little bit nicer. Obviously, they have Anthony Black there still waiting to develop. This team is really, really good. They'd be a top 3 seed. I think they'd be better than the Knicks right now if Paolo and Franz were now both hurt. And losing Mo is also going to hurt. But Goga Batazi's also been really, really good in his replacement. So they found a lot of different people they've been able to carve out roles for. But yeah, I think they could definitely use like an Anthony Simons type of player. I would think actually really, really cool for them. Whoa. Philadelphia 76ers not re-signing or replacing Buddy Hield. Okay, from the idea of they traded for him last season from the Indiana Pacers and then let him walk, I could. Okay. I'll fully accept that, okay, maybe that's a kind of an annoying thing that kind of sucks. I'm going to be real with you guys. I think their biggest regret is going for Paul George. And I'm trying to say this in a way because I like Paul George. I really do like Paul George as a player, but it's been apparent the past couple of years he's not really a 2 option anymore. He's more of a 3 option. You're like, okay, well, you have Joel Embiid, you have Tyrese Maxey. Joel Embiid's not exactly known for being healthy either, and Paul George has been dealing with his injury history. I think paying $200 million to a guy like Paul George, I understand the idea that, like, Paul George is your 3rd option there in Philly. Joel Embiid can be an MVP candidate. Tyrese Maxey can be one of the best guards in the Eastern Conference. And then you have Paul George as your 3rd option. They have some role players, you know what I mean? Like, they have Kelly Oubre. Gershon Yabusele has been really, really good for them. Caleb Martin. I don't know. I think they should have bought more into some higher-level role players and then trying to really focus on Embiid and Maxey as a duo and having 4 to 5 really, really, really good role players around them. Yabusele has been that for him, you know what I mean? I think they went all in, which to a degree I fully respect, man. This Philadelphia team has never made it past the second round in the Joel Embiid era, and it's like I get it, man. I get it. You're trying to win the championship for your guy, but it's just I think they jumped the gun on it, and you're seeing it right now. It's hurting. Then shout out to Jared McCain, man. Out for the rest of the year, I believe it seemed like his surgery went well. So shout out Jared McCain. All right, Phoenix Suns ignoring reality. It's easy to get caught up in the Phoenix Suns' star power and carried away with what that might make possible. Doing so, of course, ignores the reality that they all have to show for the most expensive roster in NBA history is last season's first round sweep and this season's sub 500 start. They were like 8-3, 9-3 to start the season before Kevin Durant got hurt, and then they just kind of completely fell off. Devin Booker's been pretty good. He's definitely taken more of a role he had this summer with Team USA. Better defending, better playing. He's been a lot more of a connecting piece. Still getting his buckets, but he's been. I think he's fully bought into that number 2 role behind Kevin Durant, which it's hard not to do because he's fucking Kevin Durant, you know what I mean? But they don't really have a good roster outside of that. They brought in Tyus Jones, Monte Morris to be their point guards, which I think was a big thing. They needed point guard play. Bradley Beal's not been very great. He's had his moments. Nurkic kind of sucks, bro. They just don't really have a lot of pieces around their big 3, and even their big 3 hasn't been great at times. So it's tough, man. It's tough. Another team that bought all in because they were trying to win a championship for Devin Booker, man. And I just think dismantling that team with Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton. I understand DeAndre Ayton had his own problems, and Chris Paul probably won it out, but it just they kind of bought all in on Kevin Durant. And just like Paul George, buying all in on Kevin Durant is usually never a bad idea. You know what I mean? It's hard not to do that, but it has not been working out well for them. Portland Trailblazers overvaluing Jeremy Grant. I mean, sure. Yeah, they gave him that big contract because I think Damian Lillard was kind of the one that got him that contract. And, Damian Lillard has been out of Portland for over a year now, but the Blazers' rebuild still feels rather new. That's in part because the front office has stopped well short of demolishing this roster. They also waited too long to trade Dame. I think it was about 2 or 3 years too late on trading Dame. I don't say too late, but, I think they could have got a lot more value. And I think, they would be in a better space if they would have started this rebuild 2 or 3 years ago, fully, instead of, trying to figure it out around Dame. The fact that Jeremy Grant is still around to play one of the most prominent roles in the offense and bogged down the financial books with his $29.7 million salary shows how much long-term work remains to be done. He's also going to be, I think a contender would like him, or a team trying to become a contender would like him. The $30 million is kind of tough to work with, but they have Denny Avia, they have Scoot Henderson, who's not been great. Anthony Simons, I think, is on a trade block. Shaden Sharp, Donovan Kling has been really, really good when he's healthy. Robert Williams is also probably going to get traded. I think they have some tradable assets this season at the trade deadline that I think going into next season, I think we're going to have a lot better idea of the direction of the Portland Trail Blazers. But yeah, they're kind of a team in a really, really weird spot right now. Sacramento Kings extending Mike Brown. Well, he's gone now. He's been fired now. So him being on that team is no longer a problem at all. And Okay. To be clear, this is not at all intended to be any kind of criticism against former Sacramento Kings coach Mike Brown. It's not even a commentary on whether or not he should have been fired. Rather, it's a simple observation that there are better, less regrettable ways of doing business than giving someone a pay raise and a contract extension only to sack them 6 months later. Well, you also got to realize the Sacramento Kings are a horribly, horribly ran organization. They have been for my entire lifetime. I like Mike Brown, man. I think I made it clear in that video. Like, it's something needed to change in Sacramento, and usually the coach is going to be the first one to go when teams need to change it. Just the way it goes. I like Mike Brown. I know he's had his struggles in the past as well, but, like, I think he kind of got scapegoated. And, you know, I think the DeMar DeRozan thing could be more regrettable for them because it put them into a weird tier of not good enough but not bad enough. You know what I mean? So I think it's more the DeMar DeRozan thing. It's nothing against DeMar DeRozan either because I really, really do like DeMar DeRozan himself. But I think that's more regrettable than extending Mike Brown. You know what I mean? But I guess if you do fire him 6 months later, it is pretty regrettable that not giving Wemby more help in San Antonio. I fully disagree. Fully disagree. The Spurs essentially treated the 2024-2025 season as a test run, which is exactly what they needed to do. Exactly what they needed to do. They didn't make dramatic changes to their roster, but they did give Victor Wembanyama a high-end running mate, number 4 pick Stephon Castle, who I think is going to be phenomenal, and a couple of established veterans, Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, who also have been really, really good for them. Considering these relatively minor moves, coupled with Wemby's ongoing development, were enough to transform San Antonio from a cellar dweller to a playing contender. The Spurs have to be wondering what else could have happened if they had pushed a little harder. I like this. I genuinely, I like the way they attacked this all season. They got him Chris Paul. I think Chris Paul is a great point guard for Wembanyama. I think this season, or maybe even next season, I don't know how long Chris Paul's going to be around for, could be phenomenal for his development. Stephon Castle, big fan of Stephon Castle, man. I think genuinely he's going to be really damn good. I don't know. I'm glad they didn't buy all in. I'm so glad they didn't buy all in because this team was not ready. This team's not ready to make a deep playoff run. So let them get a potentially another lottery pick with a year of development, man. I think people were starting to overbuy into this whole thing. The Spurs weren't there yet. They weren't there. Buying into them being there wasn't going to work. Let this young team develop. Let Jeremy Sohan, obviously Victor Wembanyama, Devin Vassell, Stephon Castle, let some of these younger guys develop before we buy all in into another star or so to push us into the playoffs. Toronto Raptors not finding a Bruce Brown deal at 2024 deadline. I mean, sure, I guess. Yeah, I mean, Bruce Brown's a fine player on a winning team. I think he kind of shows his most value. I think it's one of the players, the type of player he is. But at the same time, like, they're bad. They're tied for the second worst record in the Eastern Conference, so it's not really hurting them at all. Like, I don't think it's really hurting them anyway. I think you're splitting hairs with this one because I think they're doing exactly what they want to do. They're being competitive, but they're losing the games. They're getting some development from guys like Grady, from Scotty Barnes, from Emmanuel Quigley. RJ Barrett's been phenomenal for him this year. It's like they're getting the development while also still losing games. So whatever. Utah Jazz selling low on Ochai Agbaji, or is it Ochai Agbaji? I don't want to mess that up. The Utah Jazz valued Ochai Agbaji enough to make him a part of their return from the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 2022 Donovan Mitchell mega deal. They wound up giving him a season plus to prove his worth before cutting bait at the 2024 deadline and shipping Agbaji and Kelly Olynyk to Toronto for Kira Lewis Jr., Otto Porter Jr., and a 2024 first-round pick later spent on Isaiah Collier. I mean, he wasn't very good for him. Like, he wasn't very good for him, so I don't think you're really that worried about it. This is like revisionist history, which I think is part of the thing. It's like, he's been a lot better for Toronto than he was for, like, Cleveland, or was for Utah. So, like, again, I think this is more revisionist history than anything, but I think Agbaji could be part of that core, maybe that core, but I think Agbaji could be a good, like, player for that Raptors team for years to come. Next, we are at, 29? No, this is 30. This is the last team. Washington Wizards letting Kyle Kuzma dictate the 2024 deadline. Kyle Kuzma is not very good, needs to be gone, but nobody wants him. The Washington Wizards had a deal in place to send Kyle Kuzma to the Dallas Mavericks at last season's trade deadline. For whatever reason, though, they sought out Kuzma's opinion on it, and for once, the 29-year-old decided he didn't want the deal. The Wizards didn't either. Maybe Washington was used to operating this banner because it was buried beneath Bradley Beal's no-trade clause before, but Wizards didn't need to do it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he doesn't have a no-trade clause. You could have just traded him to Dallas, and he would have had no say in it. Honest to God. And I think the Mavericks are actually glad he said that because they got P.J. Washington instead, and they got to the finals. They lost, but I think P.J. Washington fits that team a lot better than what Kyle Kuzma would have been for them. I think, I think the Mavericks are very happy you guys did that. Wizards also not a very good run organization. I'm aware that they're kind of my local team, so I've went to a couple of their games. They're a fun team to watch. They have a lot of young players now. Bilal, Jordan Poole's still pretty young, and they gave him that contract. But Bilal, Alex Sarr, obviously. I'm gonna blank on it right now because I'm just thinking about it off the top of my head. But I've watched him play multiple times in real life, so I'm sorry about that. My brain kind of turned off there for a second. I guess, yeah, Kuzma needs to be going, but I don't think anybody wants him at this point in time, and that's kind of a bummer for them.